So we've been farming cattle over 20 years now. But a few years ago, we realized we couldn't feed ourselves.
And that's when everything changed.
Well, you don't see empty shelves too often.
So we went from buying nearly all of our food at the grocery store to raising most of it right here on our own farm. And we did it in just a few short years.
Yeah, so this is how we did it. This is what worked, what didn't, and what we do differently.
So we started small with just a few laying hens.
Yeah, so it was simple, low cost, and it gave us fresh eggs every day. And once you eat a farm fresh egg, you don't want to go back to a store-bought egg.
Right.
It was a great thing that we did whenever we first got into the egg layers. So I've had cattle ever since I was a teenager. I got started in it with my papa. He had cattle for years, and then I just picked up the tradition. So I have experience in growing cattle, but we never finished one out for ourselves. We always either sold them for breeding stock or took them to the market. We never finished one out for homegrown meat.
So in 2020, we decided to buy a steer and finish it out. We fed it out with grain and pasture, and then we learned how to get it to the processor and get it in our freezer.
That step made a huge impact. It wasn't just fresh, it was food security.
It was food security because we didn't have to worry about finding it at the grocery. It was already in our freezer. So pigs were next. They're pretty easy to raise, they grow fast, and they're easy to manage, and they taste amazing.
Yeah, so they're easy to manage in a small area. So what we did, we built a small pen, we learned how to feed them, we fenced off some of our woods after we trained them to electric fence, and we gave them free range of the woods, and pretty soon we had pork in our freezer.
So the hardest part of homesteading for us was hands down the garden.
Yeah, so we both grew up gardening with our grandparents, and we thought we could do it, but those first few times, no, we couldn't get anything to grow. It just did not work out. The green thumb sure didn't pass along to us. We thought basically that you just put some seed in the soil and it would grow, and obviously that's not what our mama and papas did. But it did not work out very well the first couple years.
So it took some trial and error. We made every mistake you could think of. We planted too early, we planted too late, we planted the wrong varieties. We had poor soil and bugs and you name it. But every year, like I said, we learned, and now we're growing corn and beans and cucumbers and tomatoes and even watermelons. And we're proud of ourselves for what we've been able to accomplish.
Yeah, just persistence and perseverance, and that's what it took for us to figure out the gardening. So our last step was meat chickens. They were a fast turnaround, high reward. You can go from chick to freezer in anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks with the Cornish cross, which is what we raised.
It wasn't as hard as you would think it is. Don't get me wrong. It does involve work, daily feeding and watering, but it's not as intense as you may think. So the first couple of years that we raised meat birds, we took ours to someone else to have them processed. However, this year we decided we were going to get our hands dirty and do the processing ourselves. And I mean, now we're able to not only just have our birds as a whole bird, by doing it ourselves, we were able to part it out into each little quarter and section, like breast and leg quarters and thighs that we wanted.
So a few years ago, we couldn't tell you where our food come from nor what was in it. So now we raise nearly all the food that we consume here on the farm. So it's not always been easy, but it's been so rewarding, and we're so glad that we've done it.
So even if it's just getting a few chickens, laying hens, and having some raised garden beds, you'd be surprised at what all you can grow.
Yeah, if we can do it, we know that anyone can do it. You just start with what you have. The one thing that we do recommend though is don't start with cattle unless you have experience raising cattle. Start with laying hens or meat chickens, then work your way up to pigs and then eventually cattle.
Chickens and pigs are pretty easy to grow in small spaces. You can manage them on a small acreage. However, cattle, they do require or need more for feed. So if you have a small acreage, you can still raise them, but it's going to cost you more in providing hay for them year round.
Yeah, and they're more labor intensive,
Yeah.
especially through the winter when you got to feed hay. If you're feeding small squares, you do it every day. If you're feeding round bales every few days,
Yeah.
but it is cattle are more labor intensive. But we known cattle. I've known cattle all my life and grew had my own herd for over 20 years now. So it was kind of a natural progression for us to go into growing our own beef because all we did was hold back is buy a steer. Or we could just hold
Right.
back one of our own.
Yeah. So it wasn't much involved in what other than what we was already doing.
Yeah, but you can use whatever you have. If you have a quarter acre lot in the middle of a city, you can use that to grow vegetables in buckets
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. You can just start small. You can just there's ways to do it, and if we can do it, I'm telling you, you all can do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, if we can do it, anyone can do it. So we didn't need a big change, just a small start and a little bit of a nudge, and that's sure what all the craziness of 2020 started with us.
Yes. So if you're ready to take back your food, then like and subscribe and follow along with us, and we'll grow together one step at a time.
And hopefully, we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.